Stephanie St. Amand with a top subject titled Fire.
So I'm going to do a talk about fired up today. I think April goes through all the talk titles and then picks which one she thinks I'm going to suck at. Just obviously a joke, because every single talk is like for me, and I don't suck at anything. Right?
Right.
Right. I feel so boxed in. Okay, fired up! Let's do a talk about being fired up. Yes! Elizabeth and I were doing foot things at the back, and I'm like, we can do anything, right? I spent a lot of time trying to convince myself I wasn't a spaz, and then I decided I'm just gonna own it, right? I'm just gonna own it. Okay, so what did you learn last week about holy boldness? Anybody here last week? Brave enough? You are brave enough. Oh, the top, being brave enough, okay, because I missed it. I was being brave, walking down Portage, being myself, right? Last Sunday was Pride. Huge, it was a huge, it was the biggest Pride we've had so far. And so next year, I hope all of you will be walking with me, right? Not just going to be walking with me for sure. Okay, enough plug of the parade. Let's talk about being fired up. Because I'm fired up a lot. I don't know if you know this about me. I am fired up a lot. I don't know how I got this way. And I saw the topic this month is holy boldness. And I did what Wes did, holy boldness. Holy boldness. Being fired up means that we get to be excited, we get to be passionate, we get to be ready to go. Raring it up. When we are fired up, we get to know that there's something possible for us. We get to be passionate. We get to think new things and dive into new opportunities. Isn't that exciting? I need to hold this back. Yeah, I could probably just hold it right here on the stand. Because I'm fired up. I love this teaching. I love this teaching so much. It has changed my life. The tools, the principles, the practices, everything about it has changed and transformed my life. And if you need to be fired up about something, change and transform your life using the principles we teach here. So the first thing I thought of with holy boldness was another way of saying that is this beautiful book called Divine Audacity. And so holy boldness, divine audacity is where I have been living for like 3 years. I found this book by Linda Martello Whitsett called Divine Audacity. And she talks so simple. I've read everything oh, that's not true. I have 2 of her books that have changed and transformed the way I look at prayer and the way I look at myself. And so divine audacity is really that what brings me to that place of holy boldness, to be bold in our holiness. Because each and every one of us are a divine reflection of that which is the creator of all life. We are a reflection of it, which makes us that. We are an emanation of it because we are sourced and fueled by that same substance that has created all of life. The same stuff that has created the sun has created the fire within my belly, right? And so divine audacity, I love audacity. I mean, I love it. Audacity is living your fullest self and being okay with it. Being okay with all of yourself, all of the missteps and all of the celebrations, all of it. The sticky and the divine. So being audacious in your awareness of your own beingness. Being okay with people not getting you. People don't get me. It's okay. It's okay. Not understanding us, where we come from. It's being okay with other people projecting their frustrations and disappointments towards me. Because, hey, they obviously know exactly what it's like to walk in my shoes. Of course I honor and respect their feedback of my experience and expression because they know exactly what I'm going through. Right? Audacity in your awareness of who you are, being bold in who you are. That's enough for me to be fired up. Right? Dawn and I were walking in. I said, oh, I'm a little tired today, but I know I'm going to walk in this building and get charged. Right? And sure enough, we walked in the building and we're like tapped in. We're ready to go. We're ready to go. Because this opportunity to come into being community, we get to feed and fuel ourselves and one another with our audacious acceptance of our authentic, real, raw, human experience. Because it's just spirit being spirit. Oh, look at what spirit did through me again today. So knowing who you are, that holy boldness inside of you, being audaciously accepting of who you are in this teaching is magnificent. There is a divine certainty within you that you are okay. Being audacious in sharing your light. This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. Right? So audacity. I think, this teaching, the science of mind, new thought, this teaching is bold and audacious. Because we walk around thinking we're the divine. I often, there's this Charles Fillmore. He once stood, could you imagine? Like there was people like Ernest Holmes, Charles Fillmore, 100 years ago. This teaching isn't really known. They're just coming up to it. Thanks to Emerson and Troward and Emma Curtis Hopkins, we're starting to feel our way in. So it's 1920-something. And this guy is standing on the street corner wanting people to come into his community. Hey everybody, I'm God. Do you want to know how you can be God too? I am God. That's this teaching. I am the power and the presence that moves through my life. The audacity of standing on a street corner and saying, this teaching helps and supports and transforms lives. It helps people come alive. Napoleon Hill, he said in Think and Grow Rich, the one book Bob Proctor uses in his life, Napoleon Hill, he said, awake, arise, and assert yourself, you dreamers of the world. Your star is now in the ascendancy. Your star is in this plane of existence. Your light is right here and right now. What are you going to do with it? What are you going to do to shine that light up and allow the whole universe to know you exist? Because you exist on purpose. You are divine purposefulness. Linda Martello-Whitsett in Divine Audacity on page 97, if you want to follow along. She's talking about Fillmore. She said, Fillmore taught zeal in the great universal flow that impelling humankind to spring forward in a field of endeavor and accomplish the seemingly miraculous. She found that in Adam's smashing power of the mind. She continued, our power source for moving in the direction of fulfillment and beyond the bounds of perceived limitation is audacity, the quality of boldness and forwardness. We need to be bold. We need to be forward. Or it sometimes looks in our life, I've had this experience, like I'm a doormat. Anyone else be a doormat? Not the kind that said welcome. It was like scram. That's what my doormat said. And when you find out for yourself that you're just as awesome as I am, There is something that is alive in you. When you find that out, you are called to bring that out into the world, to bring the fullest expression of yourself into this life, to make it come alive. And the only thing holding us back in our holy boldness, the only thing holding us back is ourselves. No one else stopped me from going to theater school but me. No one else stopped me from getting into politics but me. Oh, thank God I dodged that one. Ooh. And the only thing that is holding us back is this beautiful, magnificent mind listening to stories other people are telling us. Because if we listen to that still, calm voice, yes, I have one of those too, we are listening to that divine, holy boldness come alive in our minds. We are listening to the wisdom, the creativity, the power, the presence, the glory, the grace of that which is infinite and eternal source. And so it is our attitude, our outlook, our willingness, our perseverance, that's another good word I love, perseverance, persistence, our resiliency. These are things that are critical in our lives. Our attitude is everything, and we can change our minds. There is this knower within us that leads us, that guides us, that supports us. And remember a talk I did last month, the first step was willingness. And so willingness, the word willingness is highlighted throughout this whole message, because it is always the first step. Being willing to change your mind, being willing to transform your lives, being willing to step out of the gray matter. And yes, it takes courage, tenacity, and all of those good adjective words. Because we want to be that. We want to fill ourselves up with the goodness. We want to fill our cups out. Linda Martella-Witt said she continued in that same book on the very next page, Audacity. It's a chapter on audacity, you guys. Audacity is necessary quality for successful human living. It's a necessary quality for successful human living. Without the forward thrust of audacity, we humans would crumble under the weight of the kinds of troubles that befall all of us, such as illness, loss, failure. To be audacious, to be bold in our uniqueness, we get to nurture. We get to nurture ourselves. We get to learn how to be okay with all of that stuff that's going on. All of the falling down and getting up. That's the journey, right? We call it the work. Because when the work is complete, we will simply just realize that everything is always okay. Life is always conspiring for my highest and greatest good. And I have got this. That's what is important, to nurture that okayedness inside of us. Nurturing that knower that connects us to the divine source within all things. And so we get to develop this beautiful relationship with the divine. We get to commune with it. We get to talk with it. We get to meditate with it. We get to speak our powerful word into it and press upon its laws. That's what we want to deepen in our own lives. So we get to develop our relationship. We get to deepen our trust. Oh, trust is a hard one, right? Trusting ourselves to do the right thing, trusting other people to do the right thing, trusting God to do the right thing. Trust is a big thing. And we get to surrender. Surrender into that expression and experience of trust. Because we can't learn to trust other people if we don't put those crumbs out for people. Right? I'm entering into a new experience with someone. I need to learn to trust because I don't trust. But why don't I trust? Why don't I trust other people? Well, I've had so much experience with the opposite of trustworthiness in my life, right? And so in that same experience, I have to learn to forgive myself for not trusting my ability, not trusting my gut to say, don't go down that. Don't go there. Don't have that conversation, right? We have to learn to trust this thing that's inside of us that is alive, that is always tapped into the power, always tapped into the wisdom, always tapped into the grace. That something inside of us, we can feel it inside of us. And we can learn to trust it, little crumbs by little crumbs. Right? I affirm and know that I am a trusting and trustworthy person. That might be all the work we need to do. Make sure that we know and affirm before we leave the house that we are something the universe can trust to expand through, to explore through. So we get to trust ourselves, and we get to trust this majestic power that is behind absolutely everything. And as we trust, as we learn to trust that voice, that feeling, that sense inside of us, we become convicted. Right? Convicted in our awareness, convicted in our knowingness, convicted in our ability to know greater truth. And so when we tap into that sense, I say it's here in me. I don't know where it is in you, but that sense in me, the gut always knows, right? So this big sensation, that's why we're talking about fire in the belly too. Fire in the belly. So holy boldness is the fire in your soul that propels you into action. It ignites the flame. And we have the responsibility to keep it fired up. We keep the fire stoked, right? Remain fired up about the things that you're passionate about. Remain fired up about the glory and the grace that is within you that wants to be uniquely propelled into this life. Holy boldness is the fire in the belly that is necessary. Conviction for effective prayer, effective treatment, effective change in your mind. It's conviction. So let's get convicted. So fired up, ready to go. We have to be willing to know our greater truth. We have to deepen that into our experience. So there is an energy. When you are passionate about something, you don't have to go looking for the energy to get it done, right? It's when we don't want to do the things that we gotta, I'm too tired, I'm too exhausted. Really? Do you want to go to a movie or walk in a park with the dog? Do you want to do something fun? Okay. Oh, do you want to put the laundry on first? Do the laundry. I want to go and do something fun. So we know that if we stay in our passion, if we know that if we get to the joy and be in the joy, we can always return. Because it's in our magnificent mind, all the storehouse of all of our joy, all of our love, all of our peace, all of our power, all of our passion. We are the storehouse of that. Our beautiful muscles, the fabric and fiber of the universe that has sewn itself together to be us. We have all of that. It has a memory. And so, the first time I ever got bunny slippers, bunny slippers. The first time I ever read a New Thought book, right? We can use everything in our past. We think it's muck and mire, but it is fertilizer. Right? Everything in our experience is for our muscles, for our growth, for our experience and our expression. And so I give my passion the time and attention. I give my joyful moments the time and attention. I give everything of myself. I give my whole self to this day with the zest and enthusiasm. The overflow of spirit spills into everything I do. Mother Teresa taught us that it's not how much we give, but how much love we pour into giving. And so we don't have to be passionate about changing the whole world. We could be passionate about changing the color of paint in our living room, because being creative ignites us. We don't have to be passionate about giant things that seem overwhelming. We can be passionate about one little thing and pour our whole self into it. In fact, it's better for all of us if we just find that one thing we're passionate about and do it. Howard Thurman said this. Don't ask what the world needs, ask what makes you come alive and go do it. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. That's what the world needs. The world needs your audacious, authentic light. So we have to work on trust. And now we have to work on vulnerability. Vulnerability. I have to be my real self out there and people look at me funny. Good thing I didn't wear my unicorn rainbow kitten hat. The looks that gets, right? We have to be vulnerable and the joyful noise of being humble, right? Because we're not going to get that trust stuff right as soon as we leave this building. Steph told me I'm trustworthy now. I'm gonna go out into the world and just be that. It takes work, which means it also takes vulnerability, because it is not easy to be in community sometimes. It's not easy to be out in the world out there with all the crazy stuff that's happening. But in here, we're doing our work, which means we get to learn how to be vulnerable in conversation. We get to learn, in classes. Classes are such a great way to learn how to be vulnerable, right? Learning together, growing together. That's good community building. Learning how to be vulnerable together. Learning how to be vulnerable in conversation. And so when we think about being fired up, we don't think about being vulnerable. We think about being proactive and action-orientated and engaged in motion. But sometimes being fired up also means patience and surrender and sitting in the stillness and letting go of my ego. Poor little ego has to sit this one out. To be humble requires the release of any arrogance or sense of superiority and instead to be open and teachable. Everyone in here teachable?
Some days.
Some days. Honest, vulnerable, authentic. Thank you. Awesome. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of work to get to that place, right? To get to that place where we can release and be teachable. Oh my goodness, my 20s and 30s, I knew everything. There was a moment in my 20s, I was like, I didn't get along with my dad growing up. It had a thing. We had one of those relationships. And when I was 17, when he was 17, well, that's a young dad. When I was 17 years old, he and I had this vulnerable conversation. And it changed everything. It changed everything. So growing up with him, though, he always thought he was right. He was always right, and I was always informing him he was incorrect about everything. I had a mouth on me. I know you're all surprised about that. And there was a moment in my 20s where I was like, oh, I think my dad knew some stuff. Right? I think my dad knew some stuff. And now it's like, Dad, hey, I got stuff. You got answers. Come on. Stop withholding your wisdom from me. Let's go. And so to be vulnerable and humble, we do need to soften that ego's voice and allow a new perspective into our lives. So fired up. Everything that I am today is strength and bravery to express myself unconditionally and with great love. To be vulnerable and humble is to serve that divine grace that is in the universe. We see animals showing grace, right? In big storms and floods, you will see animals that are usually preying and hunting on one another, coming together to weather the storm, and then the storm passes and they're, okay, let's go on.
And so that is this beautiful expression of vulnerability. We might all have different experiences and different ideas, but we can come together and express them peacefully here, because this is a hub for profound spiritual living, right? Martin Luther King, he said, "We can walk through the darkest night with the radiant conviction that all things work together for the good." And so we don't need that flight or fight ego self talking a good game anymore. We trust the people in this space to be loving kindness, so we can be vulnerable and open with one another. And we get to learn that the universe is our greatest ally, right? Together for the good. All things are conspiring for our highest and greatest good. And so when we have the fire in our belly about holy boldness, divine audacity, we are headed forward. We are moving towards that which makes us come alive. Makes us come alive. There is a no-nonsense attitude about the road forward, period. That's what these notes. Just period. There's no nonsense attitude. Just this is the way it is. There's a divine power and a presence, a divine certainty within me that everything is conspiring for my highest and greatest good. And that means each and every one of you are thinking really great thoughts about me. Right? I know you are. And so right here, we get to nurture that sense of passion in one another. Let's find out from each other in this community what makes us come alive. And when we see each other coming alive, support it. Fan that flame. I see you. I see you coming alive. I see your passion. I see what you are good at or what you're trying to learn, and I support you in it. We can be great cheerleaders for one another on this road so that the stuff that looked like muck and mire when we look back in this time frame 20 years from now, celebrating our 50th anniversary, we can look at this time and say, wow, look at the passion that ignited in this community, and look how far they've come. Look at everyone doing everything that they could possibly do to ignite the passion and help this community thrive as a whole. Because what we do for ourselves, we do for everyone, right? When we come alive, we are helping everyone come alive. Ernest Holmes, he said in The Science of Mind, life-changing book, not only must we have complete faith in spirit and its ability to know and to do, but we must have complete confidence in our approach to it. We must not be lukewarm in our conviction. We must know that we know. And so that fire in that belly, you know that you know when something makes you spark. Our jobs now are to remember to catch it. Oh, I felt a spark. What just caused the spark? Write that down. Text someone, hey, I just found a spark. Right? Share that spark, and return to it when you're feeling the muck and the mire. I remember I had a spark. Hang on, I wrote that down. Right? Trusting your intuitive self, that inner knower, that guidance system within you, that spirit is your system. The divine intelligent presence, the divine mind is articulating through you, animating everything that you are. And that you have every step already placed before you in absolute perfection, because the universe is conspiring for your highest and greatest good. The highest and greatest good. Are we willing? Are we willing to be fired up in our lives? Do we want that? Do we want to be fired up? Or do we want to sit in our bathtub waiting for tomorrow to come? Life experience. I've had that life experience. So when we can find that spark, when we can live from that place, be willing, and just allow that little morsel, that crumb of unconditional faith to be planted in you. And allow that faithfulness to grow with every time you catch that spark. every time you feel a fire in your belly, that's the divine presence having a conversation with you. Are you willing to listen and be fired up by that inner conviction? So, I want to fan your flames, and the way I do that, there are 7 copies of contemplation home study notes on the back table for those of you who like to do that. I am a firm believer that Sundays are great, and there's so much work we do the rest of the week, right? So we want to make sure that our minds are tapping into that power and that presence. How are we doing that? I hope it's through prayer, I hope it's through meditation, and I trust that each and every one of us are doing our work and getting fired up. Thanks for listening.